Good? All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here officially live at Remit Studios here in Canoga Park in Los Angeles, California. We are officially live here with our awesome guest here,
Yo,
Matt
yo, yo,
Alonzo,
yo.
episode 9. What's
Excited.
poppin', my dude?
Not much, man. Excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited too because I'm gonna let you know. I don't know if I told you this before, but this is kind of a full circle moment for
Yeah,
me.
definitely.
Because how we got in this whole situation, the reason why we're in LA is because I met my business partner Cassius actually at one of your workshops.
Yep.
In I think it was 2019.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was kind of crazy. We were both in LA. I remember the first one kind of got rescheduled.
Yep.
Second one came around. We both almost didn't make it to that one because of work and whatnot. And yeah, I met him. He's like, yeah, I'm looking for dedicated people that want to learn. I have a red camera. I have like this other cinema sort of equipment and whatnot. And I was like, let's do it. Where do you live? He goes, Tracy. I'm like, Tracy, California? That's where I live. What the hell?
Wow.
And needless to say, we just started connecting and kept working together. And here we are.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's really what those, workshops are about. I mean, obviously to learn, but really to connect and kind of, because that's really how you grow, I think, in the, in the film industry is your connections.
Yeah.
So I'm thoroughly excited that happened and, happy to be here.
Hell yeah, man. So for those of you that are watching at home and don't know who this awesome man is, tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, how you got in the film industry, and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, my name is Matt Alonzo. I am a director, filmmaker, and I've been doing it for about 16 years now. I'm from Santa Barbara, Carpinteria, California, which is a very small city, a little north of Los Angeles. And at an early age, my parents bought a video camera and just happened to stick it in my face like all the time. I hated it, but eventually they plugged it into the TV, and I saw myself on TV, and I thought I was on TV. And then I saw like the reaction that we were able to create with my parents by this little box, which was connected to another little box, which was the camera. So I realized pretty early that, if I could basically make my parents happy, and, just kind of play with emotions with this box. And so that really captivated my imagination. And I had the camera on me all through, junior high school, and also played football. And when I graduated, football wasn't going to go anywhere. So I'm like, all right, I got to get into film, So, by that point I was pretty good at it. And when we went to go tour a film school, my parents were like, this is great, but we can't afford this. So I ended up going to the city college and just kind of working 2 jobs, going to city college. And I happened to be helping one of my friends who I got into film in high school. He was actually going to the college that I wanted to go to, the film school. So I helped him out with his projects, and he pulled my dad aside one day without me ever really knowing this until later down the line. But he told him, like, yo, you have to get your son here. He's I'm getting A's on all my projects. He's doing all the work. He belongs here. So my parents refinanced the house and sent me off to film school.
Wow.
So that's kind of how my track to becoming a professional filmmaker kind of began. And then I took film school super seriously, did multiple internships, and by the time I graduated, I had a full-time job out here in LA.
Wow.
So yeah, it was, it was quick, but it was a lot of work and a lot of, I knew my parents had sacrificed a lot for me. So I took it very seriously at that point,
Well, not only that, I mean, even 10 years ago, it was a little bit different where, it wasn't always just posted on Instagram or posted on TikTok and you go viral and everybody knows about you. I mean, you had to still be shaking hands out there. You still had to be knowing.
Yeah, I mean, but everybody. Luckily and thankfully, I was kind of a little ahead. I was ahead of the curve. So when I was graduating film school, I had my website, I had, a YouTube page, and the staff, the board really didn't understand this. They were like, you don't need, a director's website. You need to like go out there and intern in PA and work your way up. And I saw nothing wrong with that, but I also saw that there was going to be a new way to go, and so that job that I got right out of film school was working for this record label, and I ended up just walking away from that job. It was a high paying job, but I just quit, and I ended up doing a concert for $200 down in San Diego, and the artist happened to be opening up for Lil Wayne. So when I didn't know that until I got there, I ended up talking to his manager. My roommate actually talked to his manager, convinced him to let us shoot. And then I took that home and I cut it up, put it on YouTube the next day. And that's pretty much what started my music video or my professional career, was YouTube. So, even though it was a little bit different 15 years ago, it was still like you still had avenues to be discovered without having to go without having to go and shake hands and stuff like that, So it's definitely changed, but at the end of the day, it's really just about finding somebody to like go in on your work and to want you to succeed,
It really is like who but also like being able to put your best foot forward and being able to put your best art out there as well. And let me ask you this as well. So like you talk a little bit about like when you first saw yourself with that camera on the TV, et cetera, the emotion that you saw it entice in people, or that bring out in people. Do you still like find yourself shooting that way as well today? Because I know you do a lot of stuff like visually exciting and like
it still plays the same, like it still has the same sort of importance, regardless of how flashy or how emotional a piece is. It really depends on what the audience wants or what the brand wants or what's the best for the actual piece to succeed. But at the end of the day, you're still generating emotions, and you're still trying to get the audience to either like the brand or like the artist, or you're still trying to convince them of something. I call it manipulation. Really, that's what we do. We just create a visual that will change the emotions in a person, or at least evoke an emotion in a person. So whether it's like super flashy 30-second Instagram video or 30-minute short film, you're still essentially doing the same thing. And that's the way I go into every project. It's just using different tools for different projects and finding what's appropriate for each and what's going to be the most successful.
Definitely.
Yeah. And
do you find yourself the emotion that you're primarily trying to bring out in that is like excitement? Because I know like you love your handheld stuff. You love your tripod, sort of like those quick movements, those cuts, those like really high energy moves and stuff like that. So
high shutter speed.
Yeah. So that's kind of been your style, but do you ever find yourself like kind of changing it a little bit where you're trying to evoke that maybe sadness or maybe that romance or something like that?
Absolutely. I mean, I shoot a variety of different videos, like, styles and stuff. And like you said, whether it's romance or anything like that, unfortunately, and I think the reason why, everyone thinks that I shoot in only one style is because that's what does well on socials. So to have a slow motion, dolly push in, it doesn't really, split screen doesn't really give you, it doesn't give the viewer what they're looking for, essentially. So I've noticed that. I mean, I've shot things with, short films and really cinematic things that just, 100 views. So, you got to be smart with marketing and kind of just go where the eyes are, you know what I mean, in terms of content to get your, to really get your content out there, But I have a wide variety of styles, and that's one thing I've kind of, put a lot of pride into, is being able to be flexible and pull out the mat that's needed for each project, but unfortunately it crazy camera moves and all these like weird VFX and flashes, that's what does well, so I give the audience what they want.
What is Matt Alonzo like though? Because like that's what does well, but what do you find yourself like inside of all of it? Like you're like, this is my burning passion to do more of XYZ.
Story, really. I mean, that's really where my heart is, and that's why I got into this. And obviously with music videos, I mean, you try to have a beginning, middle, and end, at least, some sort of arc, whether not story, but at least with like your performances or whatever it is. But that's really where my heart lies. And unfortunately right now in the place that I'm in, it's like that content doesn't really live there so much, right? Like it doesn't really play a huge part because people want to be entertained and then like change the channel, right? Like they kind of want to just go to
those quick dopamine hits.
Yeah, that's all they want. So that's what I'm good at too. So I have no problem giving them that. But it's time to really get into some narrative stuff and be able to tell a story. Now I still want to tell a short story. Like I still want it to be like 1 minute over what the requirement is for a feature length, right? Like, because I know people, they want to be like wowed and thrilled, and then they want to want more, right? Like, so I don't want to have a 3-4 hour movie or something where you're like,
Right.
holy, this is great, but it's too much for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely where what I like to do. And then with all the tools that I have and things that I've learned, and even from back when I was a young child, learning how to manipulate, learning how to, like, you know, get the audience to feel something, you know, is much easier and much more, I don't know, exciting for me to do in a long form. You know what I mean? And then each scene can be broken down into, you know, into its own little short movie, and you can kind of you play with so much more of your toys, your lighting, you know, just creating moods and that you can't really do with there's no story there.
So how about like TV shows? Because that's kind of that, right? TV shows are basically like 9 parts of one long movie,
Yeah.
essentially, right? So
Yeah.
like, have you thought about kind of expanding into that realm? at
Yeah,
all?
I mean, I met with Netflix a while ago, and met with a few other streaming services. This was like early on, and I put together actually a bunch of ideas. Some of them went on to be made, and some of them didn't. But yeah, I mean, I've thought about that. You know, coming from, I guess, freelance world and music videos and commercials and things like that. Then to go to like TV, it's kind of different because the producer pretty much runs most of the show. So it's just really figuring out like where I fit in and kind of like, I don't know, altering my title, I guess, or
Even just
whatever.
the politics of it all too.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes-
politics are everywhere. I mean, politics
Yeah.
are in music videos. Politics are in student films. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a part of it that you have to just adapt to and just get comfortable with, and play the role. You know what I mean? Like, you know, early on, I think in many filmmakers' careers, it's like a big ego pride thing, and then you know, just barking, you know, and eventually you realize that it doesn't do much. You know what I mean? It doesn't. If anything, it harms you. But we all have our time there. But politics is going to play a major part in all of it. You know, throughout until the end of time, really. You know, because there's always something.
Well, you know, there's a lot of money involved a lot of the times and other stuff that's
A
involved.
lot of money
so-
involved. You got a lot of egos involved, and you got a
Yeah.
lot of people who want say. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of how it goes. So that's why you just got to pick and choose your projects carefully, right? And then also understand why you're doing projects. That's a big thing as well. I learned about midway through my career.
Yeah, and it still always comes back to story for you.
Well, story
the
is
day.
the main thing that I like. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be every job that I take, because I got to keep the lights on and I want to make money. I mean, we are, you know,
In LA,
we're trying to make a living, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to survive. I stopped thinking of myself as an artist. I don't know, a few years into my career, because if I wanted to be an artist, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and that's not really what, you know, what a functioning, business filmmaker does, right? Because you get asked to do something that the client wants, you put your own little twist on it and put it out to the masses. I mean, that's your job. You're almost like a middleman, instead of like the visionary, like the only person, right? Like sometimes you might get clients who come to you like that, but it's going to be rare and far, you know, they're not going to happen all the time. But most of the time, if you have that sort of like artist mentality, which I did for multiple years, it just causes chaos, you know?
Yeah.
And if you want to live a life of, you know,
Well, I mean, it's kind of
it's a double-edged sword.
it's
for
a
sure.
double-edged sword.
Absolutely.
And like, I also enjoy music videos myself as well, because I've been a musician for almost all my life anyway. Which, you know, film has kind of overtaken that anyway. But like, you just get to express all the creativity. Like, you could break the rules as
I
much
mean, you
as
can
you
break
want.
the rules in anything.
You
You know what I
can.
mean? I mean, that's you create the rules, and that's one thing I learned in film school. Like a lot of the rules that they told us were more like just I consider them like standards or like guidelines to kind of like, okay, this is where you start from.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to do certain things, whether you want to shoot with a high shutter speed, a low shutter speed, you want to, you know, make close-ups certain things, right? Or you want to break the 180 rule, fine, but only break it for certain reasons, right? Like throughout the story, so it tells you when the main character has anxiety or whatever, right? Like, as long as you understand and you're doing everything with purpose, then I think, you know, you can just kind of go wild. But the misunderstanding I think with music videos is that we're still doing it for a client, right?
Yeah.
Like the artist and the record label, right? So it's like, yeah, you can be as creative as you want, but you have to be creative as you want within their brand.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hard part I find for a lot of, you know, especially like younger ones when you're coming up. And the thing is, like, if you get asked to paint this wall burgundy, then you're like, no, I want to paint it white, and you paint it white, like, you're not going to get too many more customers.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and if you want to paint it white, just go paint your own wall.
That's true.
Right. So if you want to make, you know, films, then just go make your own films. Like, then just don't get commissioned to do something a certain way and then get frustrated when it has to be done a certain way, you know. And I learned that, you know, so I vet all my jobs and like ask myself, like, okay, am I going to get frustrated down the line? Right. So because maybe they already know what they want, you know. So one thing my agent told me early on was like, you're going to have money jobs where you're going to make money, right? Jobs where you're going to be like pulling your hair out, and you're going to want to be more creative, but the client knows what they want to do, but you're going to make money, right? Those are the jobs that are going to fund, you know, your life for these projects, which are like your passion / creative projects. These are the music videos or the commercials or the projects that you get that you're creatively in love with, but the budget's not really, you know, enough for you to make a living and be creative, right? So like you have to pick which one it is, and when you do, you have to just kind of go with that. So a lot of times I would have these money projects, but I would try to make them super creative, and then it would just cause so much conflict with the artist or with the brand or whatever, and then conflict within myself because I wanted it to be better than it was or like different than it was, but that wasn't what was asked of me, you know. So once I did that, and then I was able to identify which, you know, where to put it, then it really helped me out a lot. You know, because you want to have both. You want to have both. You want to make some money, and then you also want to be creative. And it's hard to do those in the same projects.
Yeah,
consistently.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, and a lot of times because a lot of the money is in like commercials, for example. Yeah. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to make in terms of like music videos. You can kind of have that more creativity, and there's a little bit of money there. True. But it's the classic paradox of like, oh well, if you really want to be able to pay your rent, you got to go do, you know, the talking heads and
if you shoot commercials, if you know anything about commercials, you get really no control.
Yeah,
it's almost at the point where you're going, why am I here?
Well, because then you what music videos, you have the label, the artist, etc. Now commercials, you have the client, then you have the agency, then you have, you know.
And music videos are pretty much like most of the time they're going to be, you know, solicited with an open creative, so that if they pick your creative, then you're going to kind of, you know, run it in terms of like creatively, right? Like sometimes they might have a slight creative, like, hey, we want them at a beach or whatever, and that'll kind of guide your narrative or at least your visual. But the commercials that I've done and things that I've been a part of in terms of on that end have been boarded and boarded and boarded again. So by the time I get it, there's already 4 treatments of it, you know, just revisions of the same treatment, storyboards. So it's like, what do you really need me to do? Just tell the DP where to put the camera, you know?
Yeah.
Which, which it is what it is.
I think it just comes down to more of like, now you're the point of contact for talent at that point. You know what I mean?
Like,
of course. Okay, cool. Stand here, do this. Here's the emotions I need from you.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, which to a creative, it's kind of like, what do you do? You know? I know. I remember the first couple, I was like, what am I supposed to do? Even when I got like, you know, I got like a bunch of Radio Shack commercials one time, and it was like, they had already had 3 versions of the deck, and they asked me to write another one. And I called my agent. I'm like, what do you want me to do? She's like, no, just put your own spin on it. I'm like, what? Like, it's already done. So, but we worked through that, and she showed me what I was supposed to do. And I was just kind of amazed by how many steps were repeated.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like, well, maybe not in that example, but I always love those clients or like the classic example where it's like, okay, change this. Oh yeah, show me back to go back to step 1 or whatever, maybe. Like, I like that one the best. Or
when you're on set, they want to watch everything back. But the reason they do that though is because the budgets are so large that if they were actually to let the process just kind of happen the way it happens, it would be like a 30-minute shoot, you know, not literally, but it would be a really quick shoot. And then the heads very, you know, up top might be like, why are we spending this much money when it wasn't that, you know, it wasn't that necessary. So you got to like take all the time, stretch it out, and really make sure that money goes somewhere, you know.
Yeah, tell the gaffer like, oh yeah, actually move that light. No, go that way a little bit more. You know,
when they want to watch playback over and over and over, like, let me call Bill in Toronto. Let me see if can you see the screen? All right, play it back. And you're like, oh man. You know, like, why don't we just shoot another one? You know, we could have shot 10 of them within the time that we're approving our this one shot, but that's just the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and every situation is different. But so tell me about this. You've been working with Face Clan lately as well, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
So how did you get into that whole spectrum, and how has that been comparing that whole world to your past music videos and stuff like that, and other work that you've done?
So when I did that Lil Wayne concert in 2007, DJ SKEE was just starting SKEE TV. He was games DJ. He was, kind of known for breaking a couple products, and he wanted to create a YouTube page. Mind you, at this time, YouTube was in its
5 years old, not even.
Not even. I mean, there wasn't anything really on there. No one really believed in anything. Videos were still 480. I mean, it was just, MySpace was out, so it was MySpace, and YouTube was just, starting to get a little bit of traction. So I posted that video on YouTube. It got 1 million views. I put Lil Wayne official music video. It went to all the blogs. I have no idea why the blogs took it. Maybe because I put official music video. Nobody at the time was doing anything similar to that. So he saw it, reached out, and was like, "Hey, do you want to team up with me to create SKEE TV?" So I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's do this thing." And then we went on to shoot all these big music videos, #1 videos. We were premiering them on our page. So we pretty much built up the first big YouTube page. At least urban wise, that had ever been out there. And one of the guys who was starting the company with us, Kai Henry, shout out to him. He was Snoop Dogg's manager, David Banner's manager. So he brought in some faces, and he started working at Face Clan. Like way down the line, we SKEE TV went on and kind of had different adaptations of it. I left there and kind of created my own production company, and whatever, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, I see him at Face Clan. I'm like, "Yo, man, what's up? Like, what's going on over there?" And he brought me in and was like, "Hey, I want you to run all the branded content stuff." I was like, "All right, cool," because we had done, we had known each other, the way we work and everything like that. So I came in and just started running all the branded content. But, I wasn't used to the corporate structure whatsoever, so the first couple of days it was kind of like just getting used to the bureaucracy, and yeah, it was just that's just kind of how it went. You know what I mean? I think in the corporate setting, at least for Face Clan, they were really leaning towards monetizing all the everything that they could. So it was really kind of putting it into this bottleneck of the corporate structure, and meetings upon meetings upon meetings, which I just wasn't used to. I was very used to being, decisive and making decisions and moving forward. And sometimes you'd wait a couple of weeks to move forward on one thing, so it was a lot of that. But it was a great learning experience for me because, I always want to have as much knowledge as possible for my, just for my knowledge, and so that I can walk into any situation and be as prepared as I can be. So it really helped me open my eyes to just different workflows and, how to work better with different departments, and, yeah, it was an eye opener for sure, because it was a whole different way of working, and eventually, it just became second nature to me, and it was great. As far as content wise, it was completely different, and the budgets were very big compared to music videos, and the expectation was very small compared to music videos. Most of the stuff that I did there was for socials, so we're doing big budgets that are going to live on a 1x1 square on Instagram. So, and a lot of pre-production, storyboards, things like that, so that, the clients could approve, and it was just a lot of back and forth, you know what I mean? But, so by the time we got to like shooting, they were pretty simple shoots in terms of like what I was used to, but like I said, it was very helpful and insightful to learn all the different processes and things like that. And working with clients on a corporate level, it's just different. It's a different interaction than when you're working with them, one-on-one. So, but yeah, and the talent was different too. You go from these really braggadocious, big personalities and artists, regardless of what genre. And then, this talent was even bigger, but their personalities were a little bit more docile. They were a little bit more humble, a little bit more shy than I was used to. So then you had to kind of change your
energy.
My energy.
Yeah.
I'm always lit.
Yeah.
But I had to change the content that I was creating and kind of the way that I would go about capturing them, because it was less about putting them into an actor's role and more about finding concepts or creating concepts that could put them in their everyday life role and not really have them, because it wasn't really something that they even tried to do, right? Like they're just streaming or they're just playing and doing their thing, right? So the content was generated more around just them being them. So and that was, an interesting, challenge and things that I hadn't thought of before. So it was exciting for me. It was new and refreshing, So, but
are you a gamer yourself as well?
no, I'm not.
Okay,
no,
okay.
Yeah, so I haven't played a game since Nintendo Mario Brothers. I think the last game I played was like Duck Hunt, and I messed up my dad's TV with the little gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never. I mean, because editing was essentially a game for me.
Yeah.
Like editing was essentially gaming for me, and I
That's a good way to look at it, actually.
yeah, and I edited my whole life, so since I was like 7. So
wow.
Yeah, it's kind of been my.
What were you editing on back then?
2 VCRs.
Damn.
Yeah, 2 VCRs, and I learned how to plug in my boombox. So
That's
for my soundtrack. Yeah, this was when I was a little guy.
That's crazy.
And then eventually got onto Adobe Premiere at first in like 7th grade, and then, and mind you, this is like 1995, 96. And then I got onto iMovie in like 2000, and then Final Cut 1 in 2003.
It's crazy. You got to see the whole spectrum, because it's like now, before even computers were editing, like you said, it was VCRs and boomboxes and cutting it up, and even like the film days where it's literally like cutting film and stitching it together. Now it's like to the point where, AI and everything else is coming into the market where you could just literally press a button or have it create stuff for you or cut it up for you and stuff like that. So like, first of all, like that's insane. Like, tell me your thoughts on that, right? And second of all, like, do you feel like some of the art has been lost in that, or do you feel like now it's just a different tool for the outcome you're trying to...
I learned early on when Instagram started going to vertical videos that I can't fight the system, right? Like, so I have to go with it, and regardless of if I like it or not, that's not the point, right? It's about finding a way to make it work for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's my same thought with this AI stuff. It's something I'm not necessarily super comfortable with in terms of knowledge yet, but I've seen a lot of the things out there, and I think it's a great tool to kind of expedite our process. Although I'm not really too excited about clients going, well, I can get a computer to do it for me automatically. Like, I know that's going to come pretty soon.
Hopefully that doesn't reflect on our rate, you know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, okay, why am I going to pay you to edit this?
I mean, I realize that rates really come like they come by your credibility or like like the perception that you've created.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? And the brand that you've created, because I can do the same job that somebody else can do and get paid 10 times the amount, or somebody else can do it and get paid 10 times the amount that I get paid, just based off of who they are or the the name that they've made for themselves. So I know that
and those relationships too.
Yeah, relationships, but also just like really just kind of setting boundaries in terms of where you're at, and then we really got to kind of work the system in terms of that, like working with social media, working with different people to kind of build your brand, because the bigger your brand is, the more people are going to pay you, regardless of how good you are, because there's other people who are killing it and have amazing things. I always look at Vimeo and I see people with like 100 views, and their videos are
just top notch.
Oh, just amazing. And I'm just like, man, and I understand not all artists have the ability to market, but it's super important, and it definitely changes the financial side of it. You know what I mean? The business component, so it's something I've always been really good at, and I'm thankful, but something you definitely got to be aware of, unless you have an agent or something like that. But I think, with this AI, I really want to give it a shot. And then I also want to see the results, because I've seen a lot of I was telling you earlier, I've seen a lot of the videos of the systems cutting for you and doing all these things, but I've never really seen how that plays out or what it looks like. And you did say, does it lose some of the art, in the emotion? I think so, automatically, but I think that's where you go back in the human element.
Add it back in.
It can't be taken out, because that's where it's really gonna play a part. Which, I mean, to be honest, as an editor, it's kind of your process will change a little bit, but at least your energy and focus can go to what's really important anyways, But I can't say I'm thrilled to to learn another, to add another tool. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So actually, a couple questions that stem off this. Well, first of all, I'm gonna just make a statement. It makes sense what you said about the credibility thing, and not necessarily the same amount of work. Because look at something like Nike, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They're still selling a product that's maybe not the price that they're selling it for, but they're able to sell it for that price because of who they are. Dito, can you get mute on you? Thank you. So also the one thing I wanted to ask you as well. So have you edited every single one of your projects? And why?
So I've edited. I mean, I've probably shot over 500 projects.
Yeah.
And I've edited, I would say, 498 of them.
Yeah.
There was a couple that were edited by other editors, and actually, to be honest, a bunch of them have been edited by different editors or post house. But for whatever reason, I just didn't like what it was, and I just went back in and just recut it. It's happened multiple times, and that's kind of why I've went away from post house, just because I haven't found anyone that really, I don't know, my expectations for it are different, and I shoot in a way where you really have to understand the way that I shoot to be able to pull out what's needed. Not saying that's a good thing, but that's just kind of what it's been thus far. And the reason why, I mean, I started as an editor, when I was 6. That's all I wanted to do. I went to film school just thinking that I was going to be an editor, and then I realized midway through, like, I was editing everyone's projects. The projects were shit, and I was like making them look really good. And I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? Like,
shoot it yourself.
Yeah, I was like, I was going to shoot it myself, because I also did love shooting and being involved in the actual production. So that's when I started doing directing. And as I started directing, I realized that for my style, and if I am going to shoot it, like, the best and the most efficient way to get the results that I wanted were to just do it myself. You know what I mean? And I've had some editors come in, but the only thing is like, if you're a good editor, you're gonna go pretty fast, and I couldn't keep up with the rates and the financial things that were gonna come with with that sort of skill. You know what I mean? Like, the competition was gonna be there, and most of the all the time, I'm just like, hey, go get what you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't sit here with me. Like, go make your money and do whatever you got to do. And I've a lot of kids in really high places, and I'm super proud of them. And so I knew that pretty much early on, that there was nothing that I could do or want to do to keep them not keep them from not getting the opportunities and things that they deserve. So but yeah, I mean, I don't know, I have a love-hate relationship with editing. I love it, but I just hate how much time it takes away from my life.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about, like, who is Matt Alonzo outside of the film industry? Do you have a dog? I do have a dog.
Yeah, I mean,
you have things you enjoy?
I mean, so I gotta say, this took me 10 years of my career to really figure out. I am a different. I am Matt Alonzo outside of director Matt Alonzo. Yeah, you know what I mean. And a lot of times we get kind of lost in the sauce, and we kind of just think that our identity, who we are, is what we do, and I realize that that's not necessarily healthy, and it's not true, and I've done as much as I can to just center myself with who I am, and I got a little puppy. He's a monster. He takes up a ton of my time. Shout out to little buddy. He's at home listening.
What kind of dog?
He's like a mutt from Mexico. He's like a Chihuahua, Terrier, Poodle. Yeah, he's a mix of a bunch. German Shepherd. He's a little guy. But he has tons of energy.
Wow.
I enjoy boxing. I enjoy going to boxing. I enjoy watching boxing. My mother passed recently, and it really just kind of hit the nail on the head again for me, in terms of, like, understanding balance in life, and what is really important. What's the priorities of my life in terms of importance and things like that. And I love my work, I love what I do, but at the end of the day, family and friends, and just kind of who I am as a person comes before that. And I think that the only way you can really put good work out is by realigning yourself and recentering yourself. And so I enjoy spending time with my family. And yeah, really, that's. I mean, I don't have a ton of things going on, because at the end of the day, my hobbies were filmmaking growing up. So
Yeah.
it's just that's how I make my living. But I do try to, to be present and to really just enjoy as much outside of work as I possibly can. Because it wasn't like that for a long period of my career, and that just becomes, I don't know, suffocating.
Necessary.
Yeah, well, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, it becomes necessary because of it. Just you get so, for me, anyways, I got so caught up in what I was doing and that being my identity, and then the pressure came on my shoulders, and then the perfectionism, and it just kind of it just gets it gets heavy to carry without having that sort of balance, or checking in with like your family and things like that, because
Being in this industry is just so wild because it's like it if you go to school to be like a doctor or engineer or something, right? You usually don't. Sometimes you do. Like maybe you play with Legos or whatever it may be in terms of engineering, right? But you don't like grow up being like, this is my passion. I want to make this my
that's
career one
true.
day. Like I mean, maybe like you can kind of, but filmmaking like that's almost all of our story. Like, hey, okay, we
Yeah.
love filming, we love photography, we love music, whatever it may be. That's why we get into this industry. And on top of that, we're here for 12, 14, 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
almost every single day. So it's like
Yeah.
it's such an all-consuming thing that I think a lot of the things that you just mentioned are just even amplified even more, which makes it even more necessary to balance. But then even what you said though, what do you balance it out with when this is what you love to do?
You have to create that. You know what I
do.
mean? You have to
Yeah.
create that. And, at my age, I mean, it's time for a family. It's time for a wife. It's time for bigger responsibilities than just no offense to the brands out there, but just a brand commercial or whatever, right? Like
Mhm.
that's great. And I love doing that. And I'll make a feature soon. But at the end of the day, that's not as important as, my kids or whatever, right? Like
Well,
for
that's a
me,
commodity. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You
I mean,
know,
and
where you
it's,
need.
I just happen to be good at it. It was something I loved, but I also was good at it. So it was, if I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't have pursued it, because I needed to pursue something that was going to make a living for myself, and at the end of the day, like when I pass away, I don't want, I don't know, my only memorable moments to be, in film, I want something that's going to live on, and a legacy, whether that's just people that I've inspired, or my family or my bloodline, whatever it is, right? But I also want them to have a piece of Matt that they
That-
can carry on,
And maybe that, the film side doesn't see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I'm pretty passionate in everything that I do, and I have a real big desire to teach and to mentor and to give back as much as I possibly can, but I also want to pass those things down and see them continue.
Yeah.
So there's certain things that film just can't give you, and it took me a while to realize that, because you get fixated and you get consumed by it, and you love it. So but soon 10 years go by, you pop your head up like, holy crap. So
Yeah, that's
know.
crazy. Yeah, that's a really
it's
really
just
good
you
point.
got to find balance. You know what I mean? And there's going to be a time and place for everything. When I first started, I was 10 toes down, head down, 7 days a week, 18 hours a day, every single day. Like, this is what I did. I slept, breathed. Everything I did was
Just
film.
you're
editing,
and you're just on
No,
the desk, like
dead ass. I mean, you ask anybody,
Yeah.
that's just how I work, and I still have that
Yeah.
sort of work ethic. You know what I mean? But now I
Yeah.
just find ways to make it less intrusive into the rest of my life, right?
Mhm.
And you find ways to make it, to kind of separate it, so that you do have an identity outside of what you do. And I always say filmmaking is what I do, not who I am.
Mm.
And that's it's kind of my mentality.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's go back to the origin story a little bit more, because I know you already talked a little bit about SKEE TV. You
Yep.
talked about the game a little bit. I know you've worked with, huge artists such as Justin Bieber and some other names like that. How did you even like get those jobs, for example? Or like okay, let's take it back a step. What advice do you have for those out there that are looking to make those connections and get those types of connections or clients or whatever it be? Because how did you do it? And
Yeah.
if you can go back, is there anything you do different?
Well, I mean, nothing I would do differently, because I wouldn't be here. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be here if I did anything differently. Now, there's different things that I could tell others to do if they were in my situation. The way that I was able to get those big jobs was, creating the first YouTube channel. That was the big first YouTube channel, right? So we premiered videos on our channel. Vivo wasn't out. We actually were the reason that Vivo was created, because we were getting all the premiere views, and then we would take all these viewership and subscribers, and we take them over to brands like Dodge and T-Mobile and whatever was out at the time, and we would tell them, hey, we have this many viewers, let us get a 5-second bumper. They didn't even know what bumpers were at the time, but we ended up creating all that. So with that, it brought a lot more opportunities, and we had money coming in from these bumpers and from brands from breaking their products, and even at times putting them into the music video. So we were able to go do music videos for a little bit cheaper than most people. And actually, to be honest, we were doing them for a fraction of the cost, because when
especially back then.
Yeah, and when I came in, it was still 500,000-600,000. We did, turn my swag on for 10 grand, right? So, and at first they thought it was kind of a joke. They didn't really take us seriously. And so they're like, here, take this money. And then we had, the Red Camera had just came out. My crew worked at the LA, one of the rental houses that had gotten 20 of them, but they did not know how to use them. So, so we took them out, and we were able to really produce these high-end videos for a very small amount of money. And that's kind of changed the whole industry. Really, they were like, all right, there's no reason for us to pay this much money. And with that sort of like change, it just propelled people to want to use us and me to do things, because they can do it for a lot less, make it look really good. And I just had a style that was
fresh.
Yeah, fresh, and hadn't been seen in the way I was editing and putting things together, and everything was quick. It was a very quick and easy process, and that was very enticing to a lot of people. And so we went on with SKEE TV, and SKEE also had a ton of connections. We were working a lot with Interscope and Chris Clancy, who's now Tyler the Creator and Odd Futures managers and runs all their Frank Ocean and everything. Yeah. He was the marketing director over there, doing a lot of stuff for Eminem. So we were able to use a lot of those connections, and that's the advice I would give to any young filmmaker now. And it's probably not what you want to hear, but my advice would be to go and intern, or go work with somebody who has those connections already, not in a way where you're going to be on set passing out your cards or anything like that, but really with the mindset of coming in and being taught and being shown and mentored, and eventually basically pass the torch. You know what I mean? Like, I would love to do that for somebody. And I've given plenty of opportunities. Things kind of go a little awry when you get a kid who comes in and wants to start his own YouTube channel. Yeah. You know what I mean? But if you can just understand that, like, that work will pay off in the long run, if you're able to have that that long-term vision, then it'll definitely help you more than starting your own YouTube channel and starting, doing $500 videos with the local artist will ever do. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, and it's interesting too, because like I see that from our world as well, because us as a company as well, like we do bring a handful of people through our doors, because we don't want to just be like, okay, we're contractors, call us when you need us. No, we're building a team. You know what I mean? Like, so when you think the Cinema Junkies, you think Mike, you think Cash, you think everyone involved, that we work constantly together. We're trained on all this equipment. We build this stuff together, all this podcast stuff, everything, is part of the team, part of the brand. So that's a lot more valuable than, like you said, someone coming in, just taking what they need and leaving or whatever, just like having new faces every single week or whatever it may be. But I think on top of that, I'm kind of a living testament to that, because me even starting up with Cassius, 4 or 5 years ago, whatever it may be, had I not stuck out with it, I would not be doing robot operations. I would not be doing, black arm and drone stuff and all this other crazy stuff. So there's a lot of value to be had there. And I think that, like you said, building something bigger than yourself, or at least, taking the time to put in a little bit of like self-sacrifice into the pot for something bigger, I think it really does pay off.
Yeah. And I did multiple internships all through college. I'll even do it now. Like, I have no problem, especially for like bigger directors. I have no problem like being there and being a PA or doing whatever for free. I have absolutely no qualms about it whatsoever. Like, for me, it's like it's an honor, and not only like once or twice. You know what I mean? It's like if I could get into a situation that would, I could see something long term and really just being an asset to them as well as it being an asset to me, then I'd jump on it. And I mean, that's kind of what I was taught in school. It's kind of what I've realized, in being here, being in the film industry, and what I see for a lot of the younger generation is the tenacity or the the ability to see long term just not really there.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of like individualism, and
Yeah.
everyone wants to kind of start their own channel, start their own company, and I just think that if you really want, those doors open quicker for you, then if you become a part of something bigger, like you said, then I think, and you prove to whatever company or person that you're really about it, then that company or person's gonna open up all the doors for you.
Yeah, that's huge. Dito, we got any questions in chat or anything like that?
No questions yet.
Right
Just
on.
yeah,
Everyone just vibing out.
yeah.
Right on.
We got a couple people. The Storm 69 says the new set's amazing.
Hey, let's go. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, like I said, if you missed the beginning of the episode here, we are here at Remit Studio here in Canoga Park, Los Angeles, California. We got this cafe cinema kind of going on here. It's totally a vibe. But yeah, so glad you got to be our first guest in this new set.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're going to play around with it too. There's other standing sets in this whole area. We also got the virtual production stage as well that we'd like to
we'll have to see one in the hospital.
Yeah. you're just like laying on the gurney and you're just like, oh.
So hey, yeah, no.
It's like the meme where it's like, you must be wondering, how did I get here? Where it's like a freeze frame, you
yeah,
know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be funny. But lots of cool stuff in the horizon. But actually want to do some stuff with the virtual stage and LED wall stuff. So we'll have to bring you back for episode number 2 and just have like a whole
that'd be crazy.
game show or something happening.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That'd be
awesome.
No, that'd be super, super fun. Have you ever been on like a game show or anything like that?
No. Some of the podcasts that I've been on had like little like challenges, I guess, or like little sections of like things that they do, which were fun, But I mean, I can only imagine it's a ton of work to do anything, just the pre-production and something like this, it's a lot of work. But yeah, no, never been on it. I'd definitely jump on it if ever invited. When I'm invited,
we're gonna make that happen. What should we call it? Maybe we should call it like we'll make it like
I don't know. You guys have all the good names, Cinema Junkies, and all these things. Like I trust you.
We'll think about it. We're not gonna discuss it at this current time. But I wanted to. Okay, so let's talk about that then for a second. What's the craziest experience that you've had in the industry, or at least like on set or anything like that? That you could think of.
I mean, thankfully, I haven't really had too many crazy experiences.
Yeah.
We did enough pre-production, and when I'm editing everything and directing everything, I'm really kind of buttoned up in terms of that. Now, there's some things that you can't control, like, I guess the biggest surprise for me was like artists wanting to leave as soon as they got there, or for their own videos, things like that, or showing up 2 days late.
That 2 days late?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard of like 6 hours late, but
especially for like featured artists, like featured artists on big featured artists on other big artist tracks and things like that. Like they haven't really no sort of incentive to be there unless they were contractually paid to be there, which depending on the artist is not really part of it most of the time. So waiting multiple days.
So how does that was it a multi-day shoot though?
No, I mean, yeah, like the game celebration video with Tyga, Lil Wayne, Chris Brown, Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, that was
but that was a multiple day. That was a multiple day shoot. I mean, if you look at the video, it looks like a barbecue. You know what I mean? But it was a huge production, huge budget, and Lil Wayne, came a couple days late, and he showed up, and he's like, I'm gonna take a nap, Matt, and then he wakes up from his nap, and he's like, I gotta go. I'll give you 2 takes, and I gotta go. I gotta go to some award show or whatever. So he was late. Then he took a nap when he showed up, and then when he finally came on set, he's like, I'll give you 2 takes. Luckily, we had all the professional skaters there, and Wayne's obviously into skateboarding. So, but we had all the skaters and the models in there for multiple days, like without, you know what I mean, just shooting B-roll and stuff. So, but it turned out all right, and he had a fraction of the song, so it's just part of the.
It worked out.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes, Yeah. But those have been like kind of the, I guess, kind of craziest things, just that I didn't expect,
Just kind of figuring out, because I'm a big fan of saying I'm not really so much a filmmaker that I am like a problem solver.
Oh, that's 100%. I agree with you 100%. I mean, filmmaking is how do you solve problems, and how creative can you do them, how cost efficient can you do them, and how successful can you be at those, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's what it's all about, you know. That's definitely what it's all about. Even when, you know, your artist wants to leave, or your talent wants to leave, or you're behind schedule and you have to combine different shots to make it to convey the same emotion that you would out of 3 shots, just things like that. You have to be constantly solving problems in your head. And I go into the day thinking that every problem that could happen is going to happen. So I really kind of prepare myself to go to battle, not like in a negative way, but in a very, you know, like I'm excited and I know it's going to be a challenge, so I'm going to get through it and be, you know, it's going to be successful. So if it doesn't really end up too chaotic, then I'm winning. If it's chaotic, then I'm prepared and I'm winning. So, but yeah, I agree with you 100%, you know.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our job, though, you know. That's what we do.
Yeah, I think nothing really surprises me anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
me either. I mean, because I prepare for everything that
yeah.
I can foresee happening, you know, and like because then you're ready for it, as opposed to like, oh, nothing's gonna go wrong today. That's just unrealistic to me. You know what I mean? Because I've seen even the most, you know, planned out ton of time in pre-production projects. Something will go awry, you know, something that you're not prepared for, battery breaks, lens, whatever, right? There's going to be tons of factors of, you know, of things that could possibly go wrong. And one of them is bound to, if not multiple, right?
My favorite thing is when like you do a prep day, everything works great. And then even like up to the moment you film, everything's working. And all of a sudden talent walks on set or something and it's like Teradek goes out or something. And you're like,
yeah. I mean, but see, I'm prepared for all that. You know what I mean?
Definitely prepared for that.
Yeah,
but
I'm just prepared for that. And then you just, you know,
blows my mind.
yeah, you just been there before. And I don't know. I mean, but I've been on sets where, it's, you know, directors and producers weren't, they're prepared, but their reactions weren't what they needed to be, you know what I mean? And that surprised me a lot, you know, but not everyone reacts differently to things, but
some people handle pressure different. And,
yeah, no, I love,
you know,
pressure. I love when the pressure's on, I'm at my coolest, you know, I'm at my calmest, I'm at peace, you know what I mean? Like when things go awry, it's like I want the ball, you know what I mean? I want you know, I want all the smoke. I want all the weight on my shoulders, you know what I mean? Because I have 100% confidence in myself and in my team, and I know that, you know, follow me and we'll get to the finish line. We'll get there first, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, when the pressure's not on is when it's a little difficult for me.
I feel like
to stay focused.
Yeah, because then it's kind of almost a bad thing, right? Because you think, oh, pressure, I can relax, whatever. But then it's like you start to relax, then you start to lose focus, then you start to kind of let things go or get loosey goosey on some stuff, and then
I do that when I don't have the pressure. You know,
that's
what
I'm
I mean?
saying.
Yeah. But I mean, I put the pressure on myself. You know, that's. And the pressure I have upon myself is pretty great, pretty heavy. So,
yeah,
you know, I'm learning to make that a little bit lighter, right? But you know, yeah. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I want all the smoke.
All the smoke, baby.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Yeah, so that's amazing. So, tell me, what is some other pieces of advice you have for like your process and stuff like that? I know that, you know, you've been through, you know, 15 years in the game. You've seen a lot of different stuff, and I'm sure your process has changed quite a bit over the time as well. Like, what advice do you have for, let's say, just a director or even someone that's stepping into the film industry in general? Like, do you have a certain way you like to go about pre-production, or like on set? Is there a certain way you like to, like, do you set up all your gear first? Do you talk to your talent first? You talk to, like, what's your process, or what pieces of advice do you have?
I guess it just depends on what process you're talking about, because there's I have processes from getting, you know, interacting with clients, potential clients, all the way to, you know, finishing and post-production and you know, online, offlining my edits and things like that.
Okay, let's start with pre-production then. So what pieces of advice do you have for like a more efficient pre-production? Let's say, let's start with that.
I mean, I guess I'll go one step further. I mean, one step before that, and it's really about writing your creative, and, you know, write your creative for half your budget. I would say that's a big thing, right?
Like
write your creative for half of the budget.
So like it's a 10K budget. You're gonna write a treatment for a 5K budget.
I'm gonna write a treatment that I can achieve for 5K. Now it won't be a 5K treatment because I can achieve a lot more than that, right?
Got you.
But I'm gonna, if it's under like 20,000 or something like that, then I'm gonna basically write it with the resources that I know I have. I'm not gonna write an idea that that needs more than I have at arm's length to produce, because to acquire all these things, it's gonna either cost me more money or more time for my team, which essentially is money anyways, right? So now if it's an artist that you really, or a project that you're really passionate about, and you're gonna take some time, then it's a little bit different. But it's more about, because you figure that if you write for 5,000, it's going to end up at 7 or 8,000 anyways.
True.
Now if you write for 10,000, you're going to be 13, 15, right? Like, and that's just not going to happen.
Nature of the beast. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's not something that you really want to, not a good practice to have, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, most of the jobs that we do, the client's going to give you half the budget up front. So unless you have a ton of payroll, like a ton of cash just laying around to fund the remaining 5,000 of that budget, then it's going to be coming from where? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to come from your pocket. So, which then causes a bunch of conflicts. So it's really about being able to do what's achievable for that number, knowing that you're going to go above it, but also kind of just managing your client and yourself, your expectations, right? Because sometimes I'd get $10,000 projects and write $100,000 videos for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I learned, okay, this is not the most efficient way to go about it. And when I always write for lower than what the budget is, then I'm able to make some money. The company's able to make some money, and you still got to live, right? You still got to survive
and invest in equipment or anything else that needs.
And that's
upgrade,
a step further than than most.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because most people think 10K, write for 10K, but you're not thinking about, well, how are you going to pay your rent? I mean, these are things that I thought about early on. So, and then when I would only get half the budget, and maybe I didn't have the funds to like fund a $200,000 video on my own, just out of my bank account, I was like, or maybe I could. I was just like, I'm not going to do this, right? But those are the things that you have to like think about going into projects, and so that really dictates a lot of like kind of where the idea is going to go. So which leads right into pre-production. I mean, for me, if it's under like 50 grand, I write in a certain way. If it's over 50 grand or, above or certain things like that, then I write differently. Because anything under, I'm going to produce with a very small crew, and I'm going to do kind of in-house, and I'm going to use my in-house resources in terms of locations, lighting, rentals, crew, all these things, right? I'm going to go to my team who I know is efficient and we can get things done, and locations that I've either used in the past, I have connections to, or I can, do some promotion, or we can find a way to make something work, and I can stretch that money a lot further than I could if I didn't do that. So that's going to dictate a lot of that. And but then I go into pre-production, and I mean, the only thing I would say with pre-production is it's the most important part of any production.
Yeah.
Any of the steps in production, pre-production is where you want to spend most of your time, because it's going to make the rest of all the way through to post-production, production and post-production, very, very simple if you really tap in during those pre-production times. And, as a director for pre-production, I just really focus on writing out my shot list, writing out all the things that are going to be needed from me in terms of allowing the crew to flourish and to do the best that they can possibly do. So making sure that I give everybody all those, all the maps and the directions and the tools necessary for them to flourish on set, and really just work through all the communication. I mean, another thing as a director, filmmaker, I mean, your job is to communicate, and you have to have really good communication skills. Not everybody listens the same way. Not everybody hears what you say the same way. Not everybody wants to be spoken to the same way. So it's really about finding what works for each person in the crew. And, you may think that's not a big thing, but it definitely is when you want this team to gel and to come together as one on production day. It's it definitely goes hand in hand. So, but yeah, I mean, really just writing your shot list, planning out where you're going to shoot. I mean, I say I was going to shoot in this space. I would probably come with 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 setups or 6 setups already off the top of my head. Just seeing these, I would see 6 different setups. So then I'd write that out, and I would also write it out in my head in a way that would be efficient for us to shoot and to get all the equipment out as we like shot it, so that we're in and out. These are things that I think only come with experience, or my mind has always kind of been designed that way. But But yeah, that's what I would do, you know. So that's kind of where my pre-production lies. But I also think like a director and an AD a little bit as well, in terms of like what's the most efficient way of shooting it. And I write it out in chronological order, but then I break it down into like this scene might be the end scene, but we're gonna shoot it first. We're gonna shoot this scene, like, and just kind of, you know, really be efficient with the time and the resources that we have.
Yeah,
you know,
that's huge. Yeah,
because all my music videos, I would say 99% of my productions, 98% of my productions have been one day.
yeah,
As far as shooting wise. Now the short films and the narrative things have been a little bit longer, but in commercials, but majority of things are, you know, you're trying to achieve in 12 hours.
yeah.
So you really have to be efficient, you know.
So basically, what you're saying is we should take this camera off the sticks real quick. We're gonna walk around. We're gonna do our setups right now.
Yeah,
and that's gonna be our podcast.
I definitely could do that. I mean, it's not a problem at all.
No, we'll have to do that for another.
I could do
episode,
that. I
but-
could do that in here easily.
I know. So, and that's a beautiful thing too. Is okay. So let me ask you this. I know this is true for me. I cannot watch movies the same anymore. I mean, you started at a very young age, so I don't know if
Yeah.
you really had the like.
Yeah, I did.
Like, so for example, like, okay, getting into the film industry, you know, 7 years ago for me. Now I watch a movie. I don't think like, oh yeah, it's a movie. I think like, okay, they lit it this way. You know, they set the scene this way. You know, that's totally
Yeah,
virtual
my
production.
brain. See, my brain already sees all that stuff, and
Yeah,
it's
from an early age
I'm
and
at a point. Yeah, I'm at a point now where I can kind of disregard that, and I look into like bigger things of like what the director was trying to say with this particular scene. What clothes are they wearing? Why is that important? I look down all the way down to like the little small nuances. They have a wedding ring on, like just things that you would overlook as you know, but your subconscious picks up on. I look into like a lot of that stuff, and you know, to be honest, I stopped really watching too many movies like a couple of years ago because I just get too jacked up. I just get too hyped and I just want to like go
film some shit.
Yeah. And just like make a movie and my mind starts going and I can't sleep for fucking 3 days and I'm just like, okay, you know, like it's a time and place for everything. So, you know, because I get so excited, you know, and just story, especially if it's a good movie, like the story and the character development and I think about all that stuff. I think about more of like what the director is trying to say or trying to, you know, convey and then how the actors kind of took it. But it's all very like subconscious and intuitive thought. Like I don't really, I mean, I see lighting and stuff. I can see that stuff too, but I don't know. I just get
you see more the motive and the motivation and the character development and that
I
the
see
story
all,
and all that sort of stuff.
And I see processes. Like I see
Yeah.
like that as well, and just kind of, you know, but you know, for films, kind of processes go out the window. You spend as much money as you want, especially for the bigger ones. But
yeah,
not that I would do that whatsoever, you know. So
never.
no, I mean, I was, you know, for me, it's like, you know, the movie I do want to make a movie, and I want to make my first movie for the smallest amount possible and make the biggest, you know, revenue. Even if it only makes $1, at least I show the studios that I understand the business of filmmaking, because you know, filmmaking in movies is not just an art; it's a business. You know what I mean? You got people who have no real desire or involvement with film who are putting up their money just to get their return back. So it's like, if you can prove to them that you play their game, then they will trust you with their money. Now, if you go in as an artist and just trying to be, you know, artsy fartsy and not really understand that like you're playing with someone's money, you need to like turn a profit, then you can be the best director and have the best film. It doesn't turn a profit, you're not getting another job, you know what I mean? So
That's a very interesting perspective too, because I just watched a video last night that was explaining kind of like how Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson kind of like how his whole story basically, right? But he came into Hollywood and, you know, he didn't have it like necessarily easy at first. He had to like rebrand a lot of the times. But the main thing that I'm trying to get out of this particular story is that when you said the business side of things is, so he owns his own production company, $7 Productions, which started, you know, 10 years ago, whatever it may be. The way they do it, they write all the scripts with his roles in mind, so that there's no auditioning, there's no casting, anything like that, and they're writing it like 2 to 5 years ahead of time, and they have it scheduled to where every 6-7 months, by the time he's getting off one movie, he's already on the next movie. So there's always no downtime whenever he's shooting, et cetera, and they keep it kind of within the bounds of what his roles are. But so it's a very safe investment. He's always shooting. It's always turning profits. You know, everybody knows what to expect, and they have full creative control. And everything like that. So I mean, it goes a little bit more in depth than that, but it just really hit the nail on the head in terms of like that is like a literal machine in terms of just
course.
churning and burning.
And that's on a
you
on a
know.
whole nother level. And
Yeah.
I feel for me the way to get to that level, like if I want full creative control, I need to show that I understand the business 1st
Mhm.
before somebody's going to give me that.
Yeah.
You know, so when I was signed to ICM, a lot of the films I was up for, Safe House, things like that, I was gonna have really no say in them, which was fine because I was just starting. But then I started really thinking about, okay, what's a better way? What's a better angle? Because a lot of the movie, the actual film, creative and things like that, like that was spoken about, but also a lot of the budget and marketing and like how the movie was gonna make its money back was also talked about, and it was also, you know, the same importance. And so I realized then that like, okay, it's not just about the art side of it, and so I figured if I could come in for shoot a movie for the lowest I possibly can, let's just say $1 million, and it can and put it out on my own or put it out, get some distribution, whatever, and it makes $2 million, then right there I'm successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you will get the I will get the opportunity to shoot another one. And if I continue to do that, then eventually I'll get into a place where I can have my own production company and be shooting every 6 months or whatever. But I just don't see how the artsy fartsy really gets it in a position to do that, because you're going to be artsy fartsy on your first film and you're probably going to lose money and no one's really going to fuck with you after that. You know what I mean? So that's just my thought of it, and really just showing the people who are handing out the money that they can trust me with it, and I'll give it back to them.
Yeah. I think be artistic in like your own realm, like do a lot of like your own experimentation on your own time, et cetera, and then by the time you have those ideas or you nail them down to where they're going to work and they're going to be efficient, then you could bring that, like let's say you're a production designer or whatever it may be, then you could bring that to your director, your DP, and be like, hey, like let's
I mean,
this works really well.
See, the film that I want to the films that I want to do I still want them to be very, very creative, very, very stylized, and I want to use a lot of the techniques that I've learned and I've done in music videos and trying to bring them into this realm. But I also want to do that in a way that's low on the budget end, right? So that the profit margin is large, so that they can understand. I understand business, because to be honest, they don't really care. You have the best movie in the world, if it doesn't turn profits, the heads, like the top guys, right? They're looking at the bottom line. Right? They're not really, maybe they don't even watch your film.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, like, they're just looking at that. And I realized, like, okay, if I want another one, if I want, another opportunity to really, to get some money and then to eventually work into the films that I want to do or the stories that I want to do, then for me, it was like, that's the way I saw, you undersell everything and you over-deliver. And that's just kind of how I've been able to make it to this point in terms of my philosophy and mentality, and I want to take that into feature films,
Yeah. Do you have anything on the horizon that's kind of you're looking to get going for 23, 24?
Just stay tuned.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You heard it here first. Stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah. Tap in.
Stay lit. I love it. So let's talk a little bit about your post-production process then, because like obviously like time is money, et cetera. Is there ways that any advice that you have on the post-production side of things?
I mean, I think everyone's pretty, if you followed me, my post-production stance, I started as an editor, I'll die as an editor, right? As a filmmaker, but that was like, I believe in, I don't believe in faster is better. Faster is great. Now, I'm very upfront with my clients from the top, and I let them know it's going to be 2 weeks turnaround time for your first edit. Give me notes back. I'll spend another week. Then I'll online it, color it. It's going to be a 4-week process minimum, right? Minimum. And that's just what I tell them. I don't tell them it's going to be ready on Tuesday. If they ask me that if they want it quicker than that, then sure, they have to pay an expedite fee, and then that's what it'll be. I'll spend all my time on it, or editor's time, whatever we need to do, right? Like, but I do believe in going through all my footage. I do have a process, but it's not a fast one. It's a thoughtful one. It's a provoking one for me anyways, in terms of creativity, because sometimes ideas come to me, a lot of times ideas will come to me in the 18th hour that I didn't go into pre-production with, and those might make the video and definitely add something to the video, and I like to leave enough time for myself to discover those things, and that's kind of how I go into my post-production, but that's just I consider that equally as important as pre-production, in terms of because you're kind of rewriting the script almost, you know what I mean, or rewriting the project from what it was. Like, you know, you have an idea of what you want it to be, you shoot it, and that is what it is, and then you can kind of tweak that and create it into what it's going to be in editing. So I really I really take the time in that process.
Yeah.
And I can't say I advise everybody, because, you know, I know clients do like things fast, but I just kind of set them up with the expectations early on and manage those as early as I can.
That's huge. That's huge. Definitely setting the expectations.
Yeah,
sure.
managing them. That is a, you know, if you have a producer, you have somebody, a business partner, that's kind of what you kind of split duties with. But if you're a single filmmaker out there, then managing your clients' expectations is absolutely paramount.
Huge.
You know what
Contracts,
I mean?
people.
Contracts.
Have your contracts.
Yeah, and in my contracts, I have that stuff in there, right? Like,
Yeah.
even if it's just like a little Word document, you have, you know, I put these certain expectations in there so that they, you know, so there's no sort of just no sort of, you know, there was no anything lost in translation. And, you know, you got to be willing to lose jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's something that you have to be willing to do. And a lot of times young filmmakers are like, well, I can't tell them that because they're not going to want to shoot with me. It's like, okay, then don't.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, not every client's going to be a good client for you.
No, not, yeah, most of them probably aren't.
I mean, I also come from the world where I've done weddings and quinces. And
yeah,
other
so
stuff,
I mean,
and
I
it's
came from
like,
that too. I think all filmmakers do. You know what I mean? I did weddings in
yeah.
high school and in film school, like my first couple years.
And
I
that's
realized,
a great
like,
example.
yeah, I
like,
realized-
not everyone's a good one, man.
Yeah, I
so-
realized, like, it's not really what it's. You know, it's tough. It's a lot of hours, and you're also
it
like,
could be a headache. Yeah.
you're also capturing one of the most important days of these people's lives,
Mhm.
right? And you think it's going to be quick and easy. It's like I can understand from their standpoint, like, you know,
Yeah.
all the things that they
Why
see,
they want it
you
to
know?
be
Yeah,
perfect
exactly,
and everything. But
right?
yeah, having those expectations. What about you, Dito? Do you have a any sort of process for your post production similar to Matt's, or do you kind of like to just be full creative with it, or talk a little bit about your process?
My process, I like to watch like all the clips and then like put a little note on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then now I'm like going back through them. So now I know, like, okay, this is my favorite one. Start with these. And then I like to make markers in Premiere
Yeah.
and just kind of like slide stuff in. Especially when
Yeah.
there's music, I like to make markers to the beat
Yep.
and slide stuff in. And now I know all of my clips are in order. So it's like, it make it so much more fun when you just like editing, because now
Yeah.
you like not forgetting no clips.
Yep.
Or nothing.
That's
Yeah.
funny. Like, and this is why I don't really edit that much anymore. But I'm much more just like, all right, I'm very bull in a china shop sometimes.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. And I've had editors who are like big editors or some of them big directors who edited for me, and I was like trying to go to their project file. I mean, let's just say it's a music video.
Don't pull up my Premiere
Oh yeah,
files.
no,
bro.
so you know, I am so organized. I'm like
Yeah.
overly organized, right? And that was also a big thing that was, you know, put into our head in film school, which was like the post-production process, how important it is, especially if you're gonna go online, offline, or you're gonna get your stuff colored at a post house, or you're gonna, you know, get this stuff, you know, shown somewhere on a theater screen, or it's gonna go to TV or something like that. Like, the process is pretty much standard, and it's like, it's important, and it's so important that most post houses will turn you away if you don't have it done. And I learned that early on in terms of, like, you know, them not. No, actually, I never had that problem, but we did have the problem at the production house in terms of other directors and stuff like that. I had to help some of their projects get reorganized. But like, say it's a music video, and normally for a music video, I'd say I shoot, I don't know, 20 to 30 performances. Right, so like, say we're shooting here, I would shoot a wide shot on, you know, a gimbal, and I would shoot medium, close, maybe on sticks with, you know, some of them with some takes with you know, high shutter and a little bit of glass over the lens or whatever, and some of them without it, low shutter, so I could intercut them. So maybe I'd have like 6 to 8 performance shots here, right? Some of them slow motion, so I could ramp them and things like that. And then I literally just go in there and I checkerboard each of them, you know what I mean? And then I make a new sequence, and I just start from scratch, and I just kind of bring in each of them as I go, or see which one, you know, hits the beat or hits the emotion the best.
Yeah.
It's tedious, and it's not the most efficient in terms of time wise, but for me, it's the most efficient creatively, and it allows ideas to be generated in my mind. So,
But I think though too, because this is the problem that I it came with not being super organized. Is like, okay, cool, you have the edit, cool, everything's great, and then you have to revisit that edit months later,
Oh,
or
yeah.
or however long later, and you're just like, fuck, where's this?
But see, one thing, and I'm not too sure how many people do this because I've done it in front of a few people, and they're like, "Why do you do that?" But I always export out, ProRes 422 HQ, like the highest possible quality that I can, like the biggest codec that I can of every project, so that I don't necessarily have to go back to the edit because I'll have the master file there. It's not an H.264 compressed YouTube file. It's like the highest quality, and then I'm able to make changes on top of that.
Yeah.
So that definitely helps. It's a little hack,
But, yeah.
But a lot of people don't do that. They only export out
yeah.
for like for YouTube or for client, and then they don't even really think about exporting a master file.
Yeah.
But I have 600 hard drives at home, maybe more than that, but all master files and just everything.
So you have a 3-bedroom house, and 2 of those bedrooms is just hard drives.
Yeah,
right?
well, I would say like my half of my garage is for sure. You know what I mean? And then like active hard drives, I probably have like 300.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Man.
I mean, I've been shooting for 15 years, and I have everything from film school on hard drives. I have every tape I've ever shot since I was like 7. I have everything. All the film, everything.
Do you do that just because you want the memories, or you want that, or just because you think you'll use it someday, or what?
Both. Yeah, I'm like a hoarder for my projects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But for me, it's never hurt me. It's always came in handy. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I like looking at things from when I was in film school, going, man, trying to put myself back into that mindset, or just seeing the films that I was creating, or even the raw tapes. Like when I first got to LA, I was shooting with Kendrick and Tyga and Schoolboy Q. So I have like hundreds of tapes with just those guys, just from like being at their house, messing around in the alley. The day that Kendrick changed his name from K-Dot to Kendrick, like I have just tons of tapes of us just dicking around, and like some of them rapping, some of them not, some of them in the studio. But that's just one example of keeping all this material, and so and starting early on, just keeping all my stuff. My dad is very organized, and like he keeps everything. So being able to watch videos when I was in college of me when I was 7 was I saw how cool that was, and like so then I made an effort to do that ever since then.
That's
so,
amazing. Yeah. So needless to say that Pops has really enjoyed the journey you've been on and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a roller coaster for him as well. You know what I mean? He comes from a 9-to-5 type of mentality, so really stepping outside that box, he didn't really quite understand how it was going to work in my life. And he's been super highs and super lows. You know what I mean? I think one of the realizations that he had a little earlier than I did was how much of my life was going to be taken by film. I don't think he understood that, and I didn't understand that either. Like you were saying earlier, kind of 18-hour days, it kind of consumes you. So with that consumption of you have less for family, you have less to maybe start a family, and things like that. So I think it's been up and down for it was up and down for both of my parents, and they just wanted me to be happy, but they also reiterated to me that
Don't lose yourself.
Yeah, and there's other things outside of film that you need to look at, because it's very easy to get consumed in this, and especially when you're getting pats on your back.
Yeah.
And I realized that work is an escape. So they're also so you have to look at that as well, in terms of the big picture. And so
That is huge. I don't know how many people actually realize that, but work being an escape, like
it's no different than a drug. I mean, it's literally no different, absolutely no different. You can escape from any sort of, whether it's problems or fears that you have, whether it's fears of starting a relationship or fears of, I don't know, anything in your life. All you have to do is go inside and write your pre-production schedule for fucking 18 hours, and it's gone. It doesn't exist, right? And then go to bed and wake up and do it again.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's nuts too. And it's like, at least it's a little bit more productive than actually like, other forms of escapism. It can be, I should say.
It is, but it also it isn't, in the way that it hinders you from energy that should be going to the rest of your life, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's why it's so addicting, I think, is that you get the pats on the back. You're doing something positive in the in everybody's eyes, even including yours. So it's like, what am I doing wrong? Nothing. But if it gets to a point where you're starting to really, neglect or ignore or just not develop these other sides of you, then it could definitely, cause a little bit of damage.
It could take its toll, yeah.
Yeah, definitely take its toll.
Man, that's huge. So, what are your thoughts on film school today? Like, I know film school like 10, 15 years ago
I love film school.
was definitely a little bit more viable. But I mean, now we live in, like, I know for me, I didn't go to film school. I learned a lot of stuff online. I know a lot of people also in this day and age.
I was thinking about this on the way here, actually.
Okay, so let's talk about it. So, like, do you think it's still viable to go to film school today?
I mean, I haven't seen a school that I'd recommend anyone go to. And just like with school loans and just the way that the actual business side of college works, it's really not something that I would recommend anybody to do. To come out of school with X amount of debt and still have to gain that experience and all that stuff, in order to get jobs to pay that debt back, to me is it's not something I highly advise. Now, if there was a school that I thought was generating, enough. Like if there was a school with a curriculum that I believed in and I saw that it was something that was very important, then I'd back it for sure, and it was reasonable within price. The one thing I was thinking about on the way here though was how many things in film school that I didn't want to learn, or classes that I had to take that I didn't want to take, and I just think for me personally, I was thinking about this. Like me personally, I wouldn't have even thought about learning this stuff had it not been forced upon me. So if I was taking a YouTube course or something like that or whatever, these are just ones I'd skip. My first year of film school, we didn't make a video. All we shot on was stills and film cameras. We had to learn how to light, we had to learn how to use light meters, and we had to learn how to tell stories in frames, in like very minimal amount of frames, because they wanted to teach us that you don't need to show every part of a movie, story and things like that, and really just how to discover what's the most important things in the story and amplify them. But I was pissed that whole year. I know like everybody was, we were just like, dude, we're filmmakers, like what the hell is this? You know what I mean? Yeah. But that was it was so important and like so pivotal in my evolution as a filmmaker. It was so important for me to learn all that stuff. And but it's stuff I would have skipped over if I had the choice, So I think about that. Now there's probably some really disciplined kids out there and people out there who can, withstand all that on their own with their own self-discipline. I just wasn't one of them, and I don't think I still am one of those, right? And so like that's where the school curriculum really comes into play, is just kind of forcing you to sit down and learn some things that you don't think you'll necessarily need, but are super important for you, down the line. So unless you have that willpower, I do believe that some of that stuff, there's no other alternative at this point yet, that maybe like if you put the how to learn transitions after you have to like learn some theory, then maybe the kids will stay. Like you really can't click out of it.
It doesn't unlock.
Yeah, that would be the only way that you can do it. But at the same time, they probably just like read. You know what I mean? Like unless you have to pass a test or something like that.
Or just have a video running in the background where they're playing Fortnite over here. Oh, it's done. Okay, cool.
I know. You definitely have to do like a test to unlock the the effects or whatever, because that's what everybody cares about. But that's why you see a lot of stuff with a bunch of effects that really doesn't hit, because it just doesn't have anything there, and you don't learn. I mean, some of my favorite classes were learning, how to really use the tools that we mentioned earlier, as far as like shutter speed and the 180 and close-ups and medium shots and like moving shots, what that conveys to the audience and why, and like all the subconscious things that are going on in the human brain while watching any visuals, and more importantly yours, and then how to use those tools to generate the emotion that you want. Now, if you just completely skip that, then you're just cutting into a close-up just because you think it's a cool shot.
Yeah.
Because the audience is still going to subconsciously still be on the same course that they were, whether you used the tools or you didn't. So, and you may be conveying an emotion that you don't want to convey because you don't really understand the tools, So it's definitely important, and I find it to be, something that I'd advise a lot of kids to tap into.
Well, not only that, you hit on a really good point too, where you were like learning like how you said limited frames, and learning like you don't need to put everything in there as well, and really just being able to trim the fat. You know, out of stuff. Because like I know when I first started off, and even sometimes today, I'm just like, oh, like I have so many good shots, whatever. I want to throw them all in there, and it's like, well, you can't, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes it's better to let some shots breathe a little bit more, let them like kind of,
I think our
choose
first,
the best over the better.
Our first film after we had done that for a year, like everybody's film was like 27 minutes and stuff like that. And it was supposed to be like a 2-minute video because like, because you want to show the door opening, the door closing, like, which just went to, show that, that you didn't need everything. But yeah, those, and you have to give the audience more credit in terms of their, they're way smarter than you think, you know what I mean? So if you kind of go in with that mentality, you can leave a lot of things for interpretation and they're going to catch it.
That or leave it when they rewatch it the second or third time, then like, I didn't notice that at first or whatever.
Of course,
yeah, all amazing
Subtext.
Stuff. So Matt Alonzo Film School coming when?
Yeah, no, soon. I mean, yeah, we'll see.
Maybe.
I mean, I love it. I just wish I had somebody to help me with like tutorials and things like that, because like my brain kind of thinks more on the artistry side, so it's like
let's
so it's hard.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, but like off podcast as well, because we actually want to do an endeavor as well, Future Filmmakers Foundation, where we're gonna empower those that maybe can't have access to film school, can't necessarily have access to this cinema equipment. So there's some things on the horizon for us as well. So
I was definitely one of those kids growing up. I really had to make do with what I had, and we came from a low middle class, and we just didn't have a lot. So so I learned to use what I had to make it look like the biggest production I possibly could, and that has helped me all the way through to now. So
there's something to be said about that.
Absolutely. I would definitely back that as I would love to be involved.
Yeah, I definitely love that. So we're actually on our little tail end of the podcast here. Is there anything else you would like to leave the audience with in terms of any sort of advice? What do you have coming up on the horizon? What's next for Matt Alonzo? Anything else that you think that the audience needs to know about you, your endeavors, or any
ladies,
sort of
get
advice?
at me. You know what I'm saying? Tinder, Bumble, Raya. I'm just kidding.
He's at that. He's trying to start a family, y'all. So tap
you know what it is. Beep, 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 beep. I mean, really, for my advice, for anybody out there, really just to visualize where you want to be in 15 years, 10 years, 5 years, and then work your way back. And, and that things become a lot easier. Your choices kind of are made for you, if you want to go a certain route. And that's something that really has helped me, having the ability to visualize, where you want to be, not like tomorrow, but where you want to be. If I want to shoot a movie in 5 years and I need to work my way back, then that means I should probably not take any more music videos on anymore. I should start working on a script. Now, if I want to win a BMA in 5 years, I should take all the videos. Like, right, my choices change, and they change based on that where I want to be. And I think that if there's a place that you want to be, then you should reverse engineer that. And if you don't know that yet, you should think long and hard about it, because that 5 years is going to come faster than
ticking.
And like, I hear a lot of times, I ask what kids want to do, or the younger generation, they say, I just want to shoot music videos. And I'm like, well, what then? What do you do after you shoot 2 or 3 of them? Well, and it's not really too much thought after that. And you need to know, like, that's going to come and go. And so what do you want to do long term in this field? And like, what role do you want to have? Because the bigger budgets, the bigger projects you get up there, the less of everything you have to do as a filmmaker, and when you're starting out and you're doing local music videos, local weddings, or commercials for the local restaurants and stuff like that, you may have to do everything. But as you get bigger and bigger and bigger projects, your role diminishes, and really figuring out, do I want to DP, do I want to cam up, do I want to direct, do I want to produce, like what role in the film industry do you want to have, and then just kind of aligning yourself with people who do that,
That's huge.
I think that's because you don't want to stay on the do it all level forever, so
no, you really don't. And it's like learning to collaborate, learning to let go, because I think that sometimes people want to do it all because they're like, I want to be completely in control.
Oh yeah, I was like that when I first started.
And I get it. It's like there's a lot to be said about all that stuff. But I mean, there's power and there's beauty in letting collaboration happen.
No, I mean, filmmaking is 100% collaborative. You know what I mean? And you have to have that sort of
trust.
Yeah, you got to have that trust. And once you do, then once you put everybody in the position to succeed, you'll be the most successful.
Most definitely.
So.
Yep, I'm learning that more and more every day. No, seriously.
No, I mean, I was like that
Yeah.
my first couple of years, man, and I was a terror to work with.
Yeah.
Like I can only imagine, but
Yeah.
you don't want somebody breathing down your
pull
neck.
it off one of your 600 hard drives. I'm sure you have a tape of it
Oh,
somewhere, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome. Where could the people find you, Matt? What's the best place to contact you if they want to hire you? You know, your website?
MattAlonzo.com. Everything's Matt Alonzo, at Matt Alonzo, Bumble, Raya, Snapchat,
Yep.
Instagram.
Okay.
I'm kidding, but everything's at Matt Alonzo, MattAlonzo, and MattAlonzo.com.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Matt, thank you again for being episode 9 guest. Awesome insight. Like I said, first time we're here at Remit Studio. It was an amazing episode. Dito on the boards as well. Thank you so much.
Boards.
Let's go. And of course, next time I'll just make sure I'm a little bit more on your level on the drippity drip.
Dripped out.
Yeah, he came in, man. He walked up, man. He had the cologne on. He had the
come
grill.
on.
He had the bling going. I was like, man, I'm not ready for this.
Chilling.
But it's all good. You have to match it. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys did miss this live, it will be up on YouTube as well, and it will be on Twitch for a little bit as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.
Peace. Are we off? I gotta take a piss so bad. Oh. I was like, fuck, just holding it.